Hello and welcome to week 5 and the final part of the social media analysis or the social media series. Today I'm going to give you three or four stories that I've researched at my new station, WTBY, and break down the social media analysis, what the stories are, how they're presented on the different platforms, and how each views and what traffic they're directing over there. So the first story we're going to get is the one that made national headlines, and the one that made the biggest headlines is former President Joe Biden has received a form of prostate cancer. Yes, the former president has been advised by doctors or told by doctors that he has a form of prostate cancer. Now him and his team are working on it. They're trying to see what's wrong, and he has put out a statement this afternoon, or yesterday afternoon, that everything is okay. Now, of course, with this being a national story and a big super headline story, this did make national headlines. This was one of their most viewed stories. This was actually their most viewed story on their Twitter page and on their Facebook. Of course, this was their front page or their national news story on their news network. This story also drove in a lot of traffic, as most of your interactions you see from their Facebook page was on that story as well, just because everyone wants to see what's going on with the former president. Now, the second story, which is which Alabama universities are losing money due to grant cuts, specifically from diversity, equity, and inclusion. So in that story, they talk about how Alabama universities, specifically Auburn and Alabama, are losing money, are losing about $17 million in grant cuts due to cutting programs. This story was also viewed. This is also one of the most viewed stories, as the people of Alabama want to know what's going on with that situation, as it does affect some of their children. It does affect a college student, and it does affect their future college students as well. This was also one of their most broadcasted stories too, being a state story. They were putting it as a front page state story too as well. It actually did very well on their Facebook and on their Twitter, as it drove some of the most traffic outside of the story I just named previously, which would be the former President Joe Biden has prostate cancer. Moving on to our third and final story, which is the Foot Locker is struggling to buy shoe chain. Dick's is struggling to buy shoe chain Foot Locker, and is also losing by about $2.4 billion. Now, this was also one of their least viewed stories, I would say, just because it's more of a niche thing. It's not what the people are really focused on, just like my other two stories, where it's like the more hard-hitting news. This is more of a soft news angle of people. If this only affects you if you're into shoes, if it just leisure like that. This also does affect the economy side of things. But on top of the other platforms such as Twitter and Facebook, this really didn't do. It really didn't drive as much as traffic, or really didn't do well as much as our other stories did, just because those stories are presenting national front, or on the national forefront, or presenting national challenge to the nation. As far as broadcasting goes, I don't think this is one on their recently broadcasted news productions today, just because it wasn't a national story, or just a story of importance. Well, not that it wasn't important, but not that just the story people were interested in.